The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched like a crystal cathedral beneath the stars. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to witness this moment. Admiral Kethfer of the Zenthari Empire stood at the center podium, his forearms raised high in victory. Da-da-da-da. His silver skin gleamed under the lights as cheers echoed through the massive chamber. Today, we celebrate the end of the darkest chapter in galactic history, Kethfer announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. The Void Swarm has been stopped. Their advance is broken. The galaxy is safe. The crowd erupted in celebration. Representatives from 100 worlds cheered and embraced. The Aquarian delegates splashed in their water tanks with joy. The crystalline Vorthok chimed like church bells. Even the usually quiet Nathani clicked their mandibles in approval. Commander Veltash of the Aquarian Federation raised a tentacle from her biosuit. What news of the barrier worlds? How many did we lose? Kethfer's expression grew serious. The final count is still being compiled. 17 worlds were sacrificed to create the barrier that stopped the swarm. Their sacrifice saved billions of lives, and the humans? Asked a voice from the crowd. What of Earth? A hush fell over the assembly. Kethfer lowered his arms slowly. The Sol system went dark 3 months ago. Our long-range sensors detected the swarm's final push toward Earth. The humans fought bravely, but... He paused, his voice heavy with what seemed like genuine sadness. Earth was consumed. The humans are gone. A moment of silence followed. Many in the crowd had fought alongside human forces. The small, stubborn species had earned respect throughout the galaxy for their fierce determination and refusal to retreat. We honor their sacrifice, Kethfer continued. The humans held the line when others could not. It bought us the time. We needed to prepare our final defenses. Without their courage, we would all be dead. The crowd murmured agreement, but the celebration felt more subdued now. The price of victory had been high, deep in the communication center below the main hall. A young technician named Haiyan Wu sat at his monitoring station, while the politicians celebrated above. He watched the endless stream of data flowing through the galaxy's communication networks. His job was simple, but important. Monitor all signals, catalog everything, and report any anomalies. Most days, the work was boring. Today should have been no different. But as Haiyan Wu scanned through the quantum channels, something caught his attention. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, buried in the background noise of space, was a faint signal. He leaned closer to his screen, adjusting the filters. The signal was weak, almost impossible to detect. But it was there, pulsing steadily. From the direction of the Sol system, Haiyan Wu's hands trembled as he worked to decode it. The message was simple. Just 4 words repeating endlessly. Still here, still fighting. Haiyan Wu stared at the screen in disbelief. According to every official report, Earth had been consumed. By the swarm 3 months ago, the entire Sol system was supposed to be a dead zone. Nothing but empty space and scattered debris. But the signal was real. The quantum signature was definitely human. It was coming from exactly where Earth should be. He looked around the communication center. The supervisor was busy coordinating with the celebration upstairs. The other technicians were focused on their own stations. No one was paying attention to him. Haiyan Wu made a decision. He quietly copied the signal data to a secure storage device, then erased it from the main system. Official records would show nothing unusual. But he would keep the proof dot above him. The celebration continued. Admiral Kethfer was now discussing plans for rebuilding the damaged sectors of the galaxy. The Aquarian delegates were proposing new trade agreements. The Vorthok were offering to share their crystal-growing technology to help restore devastated worlds. None of them knew that somewhere in the darkness beyond the barrier, humanity was still alive, still fighting, still sending their defiant message into the void. Haiyan Wu saved the signal to his personal files and tagged it with a simple note. Day 1, they're still there. He had no idea what to do with this information. Who would believe him? The entire Galactic Council had accepted Earth's destruction as fact. Any claim otherwise would be dismissed as wishful thinking or censor error, but he would keep watching, keep listening. Because somewhere out there, beyond the terrible darkness of the Void Swarm, His human friends were alive, they were fighting, and they were waiting. The celebration in the Great Hall lasted until dawn, when the last delegates finally departed. The galaxy officially entered a new age of peace. The Void Swarm was defeated. The threat was over. Life could return to normal, but in a small communication center. A young technician named Hyan Wu sat alone with his secret knowledge. Every day he would scan the quantum channels. Every day he would search for that faint signal from the Sol system. And every day he would find it still transmitting, still defiant, still carrying the same 4 words that would change everything. The galaxy thought the war was over. It had no idea it was just beginning. Commander Ji-hoon pressed his face against the thick glass of Luna Base's observation deck and watched hell itself dance around his home planet. The Void Swarm moved like a living nightmare through space, their bioships writhing and pulsing with dark energy. Tentacles the size of mountains reached toward Earth, only to crash against the shimmering blue barrier that protected the world. Below, another wave coming in, Lieutenant Sujin called from her station. I count 47,000 entities approaching from the outer system. Ji-hoon nodded without turning from the window. Signal all surface batteries. Pattern Delta 7. Below them, Earth's scarred surface erupted in coordinated fire. Massive railguns and plasma cannons spoke as one, their combined fury carving bright lines through the swarm's ranks. The creatures pressed forward anyway, crashing against the planetary shields in waves of bioluminescent fury. It had been like this for 3 months. Every day the swarm attacked, every day Earth's defenses held, but the cost was enormous. The planet's surface was a wasteland of craters and burning forests. The great cities of humanity now existed deep underground, connected by tunnels that stretched for thousands of miles. "Sir," came a tired voice from behind him. Dr. Minho approached, his laboratory coat dirty and torn. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not slept in days. "The specimens from yesterday's capture are ready for analysis." Ji-hoon turned from the window. "What did you find?" "Something strange," Minho said, holding up a small container filled with what looked like black liquid. "Hey, this biomatter doesn't behave like anything we've seen before. It's almost like it exists in reverse." Through the base's speakers, an alarm began to sound. "All personnel to battle stations. Incoming swarm formation detected." "This is not a drill." Ji-hoon ran to the command center, where dozens of technicians worked frantically at their stations. The main display showed a massive cloud of swarm creatures approaching Earth's moon. At the center of the formation was something new, a bioship larger than anything they had seen before. "What is that thing?" Ji-hoon demanded. "Unknown classification," reported Tactical Officer Youngmi. "It's 3 times larger than their biggest mothership, and it's heading straight for us." The creature was beautiful in a terrible way. Its hull seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. Tentacles streamed behind it like a comet's tail, each one crackling with energy. As it approached, smaller bioships detached from its surface like seeds from a flower. "All defensive systems online," Ji-hoon ordered. "Prepare to engage." Luna Base's weapons opened fire, sending streams of plasma and kinetic rounds toward the approaching monster. The shots struck its hull and simply disappeared, absorbed into the creature's living surface without leaving a mark. "Direct hit, no effect," Youngmi reported. "The creature is adapting to our weapons." The bioship reached out with one massive tentacle, wrapping it around Luna Base's outer ring. The metal groaned and buckled under the pressure. Emergency lights flashed as the base's hull began to crack. "Hull breach on level 7, someone shouted. "We're losing atmosphere." Ji-hoon watched helplessly as the creature began to squeeze. But then, something unexpected happened. The bioship suddenly released its grip and pulled back as if it had touched something hot. "What just happened?" Ji-hoon demanded. Dr. Minho was staring at his handheld scanner in amazement. "The quantum field generators," he said slowly. "The creature can't handle our shield frequency. It's like we're poisonous to it." "Explain." "These things exist in a different quantum state than we do. Our technology creates interference patterns that hurt them. That's why they can't get through Earth's shields, no matter how hard they try. Ji-hoon felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. Can we weaponize this? Maybe Minho said. But I need more data, more specimens, and time to study them. The bioship was retreating now, its smaller offspring following like a school. A fish, but Ji-hoon knew it would be back. They always came back. Set up a capture mission, he ordered. I want live specimens from that thing. Sir, that's extremely dangerous, Youngmi protested. We could lose our entire strike team. We'll lose a lot more if we don't learn how to fight these things properly, Ji-hoon replied. The galaxy thinks we're dead. They've written us off as acceptable losses, but we're still here and we're still fighting. He turned back to the observation window, where Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness. The planet's surface was wounded but unbroken. Its shields still held. Its people still lived. The Council abandoned us, Ji-hoon said quietly. They decided our sacrifice was necessary for the greater good. But they made one mistake. What's that, sir? Sujin asked. Ji-hoon smiled grimly. They forgot that humans don't know how to quit. We've been fighting these things for 3 months. We've learned their weaknesses. And now we're going to teach them why you should never count humanity out. Outside, the Void Swarm continued its eternal dance around Earth, but deep in Luna bases. Laboratories, human scientists, worked to unlock the secrets that would turn the tide of war. The galaxy thought the storm had consumed them. They had no idea that humanity was learning to ride the lightning. Dr. Minho's hands shook as he stared at the quantum resonance patterns dancing across his screen. After 3 weeks of studying the captured swarm biomatter, the impossible truth was finally becoming clear. The readings made no sense according to everything he knew about physics, but the data did not lie. Director Jae-sung, he called across. The underground laboratory, you need to see this right now. The research director hurried over from his workstation, his tired eyes focusing on the display. Around them, the lab hummed with activity as dozens of scientists worked around the clock to understand their enemy. The walls shook slightly as another swarm attack hit Earth's surface far above. What am I looking at? Jae-sung asked, squinting at the complex wave patterns. The answer to everything, Minho said quietly. Look at these entropy readings. They're completely backwards. These creatures exist in a reality where time flows in reverse, where death becomes life and destruction becomes creation. Breath caught in his throat. That's impossible. Thought so too. But watch this. Minho played a recording of the biomatter responding to different energy frequencies. When we hit it with standard weapons, it absorbs the energy and grows stronger. But when we use quantum interference patterns, it weakens and retreats. Not just from another dimension, Jae-sung whispered. They're from a universe where the laws of physics work backwards. Exactly. They're controlled through quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers. Every single creature is connected to a central consciousness in their home reality. But here's the important part. Minho pulled up another display. If we can match their phase variance, we might be able to slip through them like they're not even there. The implications hit Jae-sung like a physical blow. It could phase through their bioships. More than that, it could phase through their entire fleet. They exist in reverse quantum states, so our matter would pass right through theirs without any interaction at all. 2 weeks later, the experimental vessel Defiance hung in Earth's orbital shipyard like a metal prayer. The small ship had been completely rebuilt, with prototype quantum phase generators based on Minho's discoveries. Captain Dong Haeon stood on the bridge, watching his crew make final preparations for humanity's most important test. All systems are green, reported Chief Engineer Hanul from her station. Phase variance is locked at -47%. The quantum field generators are stable. Dong Haeon nodded, though his stomach churned with nervous energy. If this test failed, they would lose not just a ship and crew, but possibly their only hope of fighting back against the swarm. Communications, signal Luna base that we're beginning the test run. Signal sent, sir. Commander Ji-hoon wishes us good luck. It's through the view screen. Dong Haeon could see their target, a massive swarm mothership that had been circling Earth for the past month. The bio creature was the size of a small city, its hull covered in pulsing tentacles and energy pods. It had destroyed 3 human ships that tried to approach it. "Take us in," Dong Haiyan ordered, nice and slow. The Defiance began moving toward the mothership. As they approached, Dong Haiyan could see the creature's surface beginning to react. Tentacles turned toward them. Energy weapons began to charge with deadly light. "Activate the phase drive," he commanded. Hanel's fingers flew. Over her controls, phase drive online. Beginning quantum shift in 3.2.1. The ship shimmered and became translucent, like a ghost made of metal and light. Dong Haiyan felt a strange, tingling sensation as his body shifted between dimensions. Everything around him looked slightly blurred, as if he were seeing the world. Through water, the swarm mothership fired at them with every weapon it had. Plasma beams and bioelectric bolts streaked toward the Defiance. Massive tentacles reached out to grab the small human ship. Everything passed harmlessly through them. "Incredible," whispered Navigator Young-Sik. "Their weapons can't touch us." The Defiance flew straight into the mothership's hull. Dong Haiyan expected to feel the impact, but instead they passed through the creature's living flesh, like it was made of smoke. Inside the bioship, they could see the creature's organs working, its neural pathways pulsing with alien thought. "We're inside the target," Hanyul reported with amazement. "All systems still green. The phase drive is working perfectly."
Ow.
They emerged from the other side of the mothership completely unharmed. The swarm creature spun around in confusion, its sensors unable to detect the small human vessel that had just passed through its body. "Luna Base, this is Defiance," Dong Haiyan said into his communicator, his voice cracking with excitement. "The phase drive works. We can ghost through them like they're not even there." Back in the underground laboratory, Minho and Jae-soon watched the test results with growing amazement. The quantum readings showed that the Defiance had successfully shifted into the same reverse entropy state as the swarm creatures, allowing both forms of matter to coexist in the same space without interacting. "We did it," Jae-soon said quietly. "We actually did it." Minho was already working on his next calculations. "This is just the beginning. If we can phase individual ships, we can phase entire fleets. We can move through the swarm like they're not even there." Above them, Earth's defensive batteries continued their endless fight against the creatures surrounding their world. But deep underground, human science had just unlocked the key to victory. The galaxy had written them off as dead, but humanity was about to prove that being underestimated was the greatest tactical advantage of all. Admiral Kethfer stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, watching the victory celebration through the great windows. Ships from 100 worlds floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with ceremonial lights. The war was over. The void swarm was contained. Peace had finally returned to the galaxy. "Sir," his aide whispered urgently in his ear, "we're detecting massive fleet movements from the swarm territory." Kethfer's 4 hearts skipped a beat. "What kind of movements?" "Unknown, sir. But there are hundreds of signatures emerging from the biomass around the Sol system." The Admiral's celebration mood vanished instantly. "Impossible. The swarm doesn't retreat. They consume everything until nothing remains." He turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare all fleets for emergency deployment. If the swarm is making a final push, we need to be ready." Across the galaxy, the alert went out. Celebration turned to panic as ships scrambled to battle stations. The great victory they had been celebrating suddenly felt premature and fragile. On the main tactical display, hundreds of new contacts appeared at the edge of sensor range. They were moving fast, faster than any swarm bioship had ever traveled. They were heading straight for the Council fleet. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with confusion. "These signatures, they're not swarm vessels." Kethfer leaned forward. "Then what are they?" "Reading metal hulls, fusion reactors, and quantum signatures that match." The officer paused, checking his readings again. "Sir, they match human technology." Stunned silence fell over the bridge. Every person present knew that was impossible. Earth had been consumed 3 months ago. The humans were extinct. The Council had accepted their sacrifice as necessary for the greater good. "Are you certain?" Kethfer demanded. "Positive, sir. The lead ship is broadcasting a Terran Defense Force identification beacon, designation TDF Indomitable." The massive dreadnought emerged from the darkness like a ghost returning from the dead. Its hull was scarred and blackened from months of battle, but it flew with the pride of a ship that had never surrendered. Behind it came dozens of other vessels, destroyers, cruisers, and carriers that should not exist. "This is impossible," Kethfer whispered. "We saw the sensor data. Sol system went dark. The swarm consumed everything." But the evidence was right in front of him. The human fleet was not only alive, but they were flying through the swarm biomass, like it was empty space. The creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for years seemed unable to touch the human ships. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was calm, confident, and unmistakably human. "This is Captain Jinwoo of the Terran Defense Force. We've been analyzing your enemy for the past 3 months. Time to show you how humans end a war." Kethfer stared at the tactical display in shock. The human fleet was not engaging the swarm creatures around them. Instead, they were phasing through the bioships like ghosts, their hulls shimmering with some kind of unknown technology. "How are they doing that?" the science officer asked in amazement. "Unknown, sir? Their ships appear to be shifting between quantum states. The swarm weapons are passing right through them." The Indomitable and her escort ships moved with deadly purpose, diving deeper into the swarm territory. They ignored the massive bio-creatures that had held the galaxy in terror for decades, treating them like they were nothing more than obstacles to fly around. "Where are they going?" Kethfer demanded. His science officer's voice was barely a whisper. "Toward the dimensional rift, sir. It's the source of the swarm invasion." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds began shouting at once. Some demanded to know how the humans had survived. Others wanted to know why they had not been told. A few began calling for immediate military support. "Silence," Kethfer roared, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We need to understand. What's happening here?" On the main display, the human fleet continued its impossible journey through the heart of the swarm. The bio-creatures that had seemed unstoppable were now helpless, their weapons useless against the phasing human ships. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving another transmission from Captain Jinwoo. Put it through to the entire council." Jinwoo's voice filled the great chamber, carrying a tone that made every being present feel ashamed. "To the Galactic Council, you declared our world an acceptable loss. You abandoned us to die while you celebrated your victory. But you made one critical mistake." The chamber fell silent. "You forgot that humans don't know how to quit. While you were planning your victory parties, we were learning, we were adapting, we were preparing. The swarm isn't your enemy anymore, it's ours. We're about to end this war the way humans always do, by refusing to accept defeat." The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. On the tactical display, the human fleet disappeared into the deepest part of the swarm territory, heading toward something that no one had ever dared approach. Admiral Kethfer stared at the screen, his mind reeling. The humans were alive. They had survived 3 months in the heart of hell itself. And now they were going to finish what the entire galaxy had failed to do. "What have we done?" he whispered to himself. "What have we done?" Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as his fleet approached the heart of darkness. Itself, the dimensional rift stretched before them like a wound in reality, pulsing with malevolent energy that made the air itself feel sick. Through the tear in space-time, they could see the inverse centropy universe that had birthed the void swarm. A place where death became life and destruction became creation. "All ships report ready, sir," Navigation Officer Youngmi announced. From her station, quantum resonance field generators are online and synchronized. Jinwoo nodded, his eyes fixed on the massive rift ahead. For 3 months, his people had suffered while the galaxy celebrated their supposed death. For 3 months, they had fought alone against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. But now they understood the truth about the swarm, and they were ready to end this war once and for all. "Communications. Open a channel to all ships," Jinwoo commanded. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Jinwoo to all vessels. Today we finish what our ancestors started when they first looked up at the stars and refused to accept limits. We are not here to destroy our enemy. We are here to send them home. Execute Operation Homecoming. The human fleet moved into formation around the dimensional rift. Unlike every other battle in the war, they were not attacking. Instead, they were surrounding the tier in space-time like doctors preparing to heal a wound. Initiating Phase 1, reported Chief Engineer Hanul from the Indomitable's engine room. All helix drives are synchronized and ready. The modified quantum drives that had allowed them to phase through the swarm bioships now served a different purpose. Instead of shifting the ships between dimensions, they were going to shift the dimensional rift itself. Phase 2 initiated, came reports from the other ships. Quantum resonance field is building. Around the massive tier in reality, space itself began to shimmer. The human fleet was creating a field that would reverse the rift's polarity, turning the invasion route into a pathway home in the Galactic Council chamber. Thousands of beings watched in amazement as sensor data showed the impossible. The humans were not fighting the swarm, they were manipulating the very fabric of space-time itself. "What are they doing?" Admiral Kethford demanded of a science officer. "They're reversing the dimensional rift, sir. Somehow they found a way to turn the swarm's own invasion route against them." On the tactical display, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The void swarm bioships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades began to slow their movements. Their connection to the hive mind in their home dimension was being severed by the quantum interference field. Sir Young-Mi reported from the Indomitable's navigation station, "The rift is destabilizing. The swarm's quantum entanglement network is breaking down." Ginwu watched as the creatures that had seemed unstoppable just minutes before began to drift aimlessly through space. Without their connection to the central consciousness, they were nothing more than empty shells. "Phase 3, he ordered. "Reverse the flow." The quantum resonance field reached critical intensity. The dimensional rift began to collapse inward, its energy signature flipping from outward expansion to inward suction. The tier that had been bleeding nightmares into their reality was now pulling those nightmares back home, across the galaxy. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as the void swarm began to retreat. The bioships that had consumed 17 worlds were being pulled back toward their home dimension like iron filings drawn to a magnet. "Credible," breathed Commander Veltash of the Aquarian Federation. "They're not destroying the rift there, using it as a prison." The process took only minutes, but it felt like hours. One by one, the swarm creatures were drawn back through the dimensional tier. The massive motherships went first, their bulk unable to resist the pull. Then the smaller bioships, their tentacles reaching desperately for purchase in normal space. "Final phase," Jinwu announced. "Seal the breach." The human fleet poured every bit of power they had into the quantum field generators. The dimensional rift began to close, its edges pulling together like a wound healing. The last few swarm creatures were sucked through just as the tier sealed itself completely. Space itself seemed to sigh with relief as the rift disappeared. For the first time in decades, the galaxy was truly free of the void swarm. "Sir," Young-Mi reported quietly, "the rift is sealed. No quantum signatures detected. The swarm connection is permanently severed." Jinwu opened a final transmission to the Galactic Council. His words would be remembered for generations to come. "To the Galactic Council. You wrote us off as acceptable losses 3 months ago. You decided our sacrifice was necessary for the greater good. But you forgot something important about humanity. We don't stay dead when you need us to." The transmission carried across the galaxy, reaching every ship, every world, every being that had celebrated Earth's destruction. "We just saved your galaxy. We ended a war that you couldn't win. We did it alone, without your help, after you abandoned us to die. Remember that the next time you decide someone else's life is an acceptable loss." The human fleet began to phase away, their ships shimmering as they activated their helix drives. Humanity doesn't surrender, and we don't forgive being left behind. This galaxy is now under our protection, whether you like it or not. The last thing the Council saw was the Indomitable disappearing into quantum space, leaving behind a universe forever changed by the realization that writing off humanity had been the greatest mistake in galactic history.